Scaloni was harsh. Dibu Martinez, perhaps even more so. Quote, the state of the pitch was a disaster, very bumpy. We must improve in this aspect. Otherwise, Copa America will always appear at a lower level than the European Championship. All right, guys, what do we make of the field conditions in Atlanta last night at the Copa America opener? Something, nothing, or Herc, everything?
Well, it's everything because, especially when we're watching the morning games and it's the Euros, you see, not the exception with the England game, that looked like a terrible field, but majority of the fields are pristine. There's a fiesta in the stands, there's a fiesta on the grounds, it looks like you can play. It's an even playing field for everybody. And then we see the world champions kick off Copa America with an amazing atmosphere. The crowd was spectacular against a valiant Canadian team, and the field looked choppy. We've all played in these type of stadiums where they lay the grass over the turf, and what that does, it makes your legs are very heavy. The ball travels at a different rate. Sometimes the grasses come up and the patches are made, and it's bumpy and you can get hurt. It increases your chance of injury. It compromises the integrity of the game. It's not ideal. So when you see this in what is this hemisphere's version of the Euros, the biggest tournament you can play here, Copa America, it almost feels down a level, and it's a sad thing. As a player who's played in these type of settings, I can tell you it's never ideal, whether it's 2 days that the sod's been laid, 4 days, a week, there's always something with it. It's not an ideal situation for the player.
What do you make of it?
Well, first I would say to Emi Martinez, while I understand his point and I take his point on board, and I agree that at the very least what you need to have is surfaces that match the magnitude of the event. That I agree with. But there's no need to put yourself in a position in which you're essentially saying the appearance of Copa America will always be lower than the European Championships because of things like this. Go back to the England game. That field was all over the place. Now, we're not sitting here and saying and questioning the field conditions in Germany. And are they taking care of the fields, and are we questioning the magnitude of the event? We're not doing that for the Euros, and I don't think Emi Martinez should be in a position where he actually questions the magnitude of Copa America because of the conditions of the field. That's an individual thing that happened in this stadium. What is concerning, and this is, I think, the bigger point, is not only focus on Copa America, focus on the World Cup.
Yep.
And those big stadiums that have, for the most part, they have artificial turf and will have sod laid out on top of that artificial turf. And now we're talking not only about Copa America and whatever the importance you think of this tournament. I think it's an important tournament. Obviously, Emi Martinez feels the same way. But what about the World Cup? And if you cannot get it right in Copa America, then it feels like we're in a slippery slope. Like, how are you going to get it right for the World Cup? And mind you, if you cannot get this field ready for Argentina, and never mind Argentina, Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
Imagine this. And these are things that can happen given how these fields are laid out. And it's something that even when I was a player was always troubling. The seams. The seams. If the seams are not laid out properly, those expose yourself to injury because not because you're doing something inappropriate or incorrectly as a player. No, you're just running. But if you happen to catch a seam, now you're endangering yourself. Never mind that I endanger myself. Never mind that Shaka endangers himself or that Hercules endangers himself. Lionel Messi. Think about that. If indeed, and God forbid this would happen, but it's a possibility, and you open yourself up to that possibility when you have fields like this, and the conditions like the field that we had yesterday. Lionel Messi injuring himself in this sort of event, in this sort of moment, in this sort of stage. Now, what would everybody say?
Yeah.
Now, I kind of sympathize with Emi Martinez in the comparison, because I think both tournaments going on at the same time, the inclusion of the CONCACAF nations, I think is an effort to kind of this side of the Atlantic have a competition that at the very least can rival the Euros. And while yes, Euros aren't comparing themselves to Copa America, this has been certainly in terms of your audiences the smaller of the two competitions. So you understand. And I think, and while the comparison with some of the poor pitches that we've seen in Germany is understandable, those poor pitches, as an example that I'll use, the England game, That's the exception more than the rule.
Correct.
If this game, Argentina-Canada, reigning world champions, best player to ever pull on a pair of boots, and that's the pitch, and the concern is that this is what they're doing at most of the stadiums in this competition, then all of a sudden, that's the rule. Good pitches are the exception. And that is the biggest concern, that you have a competition of this magnitude, and that's the rule, not the exception. And then look 2 years into the future with the hosting of the World Cup, then all of a sudden it takes on even more gravity.
But can I just say that this is, see, you agree to dance with the devil, right? And see, I'll just say, and it's something that I've been saying all along, and I'm being consistent with this. Copa America does not belong in the United States. It doesn't. It doesn't. So you play a tournament outside of the region in which it should be played. Guess what we don't have in South America?
American football stadiums? NFL?
Guess what we don't have? Artificial turf. You think in El Monumental de Núñez in Argentina, Buenos Aires, they have artificial turf? No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't. And so when you make the decision to accept the money, because that's what it is, it's about money, and you accept the fact that you're going to pack the stadiums in the manner in which you did, right? You also must accept that the fields are not intended to be what you think they should be. That's fact. That's not a matter of opinion. That is, you're laying a new field on top of artificial grass, and you're saying it's going to play like regular grass. No, it doesn't.
So I sympathize with Dibu and what he's saying. I think I understand why he's saying that. For the better part about a year and a half, he's had to listen to Kylian Mbappe talk about how European football is better than South American football, how the Euros are more difficult than the World Cup, the tournament that Argentina just won. And now you're seeing the European Championships and what they have to offer, the great fiesta that is. And Dibu, in his moment, in his Copa America, with his team, the actual world champions, is sitting here and watching this unfold before his very eyes. I think it stems a lot from those, I don't want to say insecurities, but those moments where he's had to see the European teams and Kylian Mbappe himself looking down on South America.
Well, the truth of the matter is, whatever you may think about the field conditions, is that a tournament of this magnitude, at the bare minimum, should have pristine field conditions. That's it. Yeah. Wherever they decide to play, whether that's in Argentina, whether that's in Uruguay, Colombia, Venezuela, or here in the United States.
Yeah, and to be fair, it wasn't just the Argentina side complaining. Kamal Miller said it was like a stage. It was hollow. I mean, that's about as damning of a quote as you can hear about a field.
Came out today as well. Said the same thing about playing in these football stadiums. You know, the size and laying the sod over this artificial turf, much like Ali was explaining.
And by the way, the final, July 14th at Hard Rock in Miami. There's a concert at Hard Rock on July 6th, and they're going to have to put in a new field in between that week. So it was an issue in the opener. Could be an issue for the final as well down there for, well, let's see who's in the final. I was going to say for Lionel Messi and Argentina, but I don't want to get ahead of myself here on Futbol Americas.